Welcome in, everyone, to tonight's episode of What's Bruin. It is a centennial game for our Bruins. I am joined, as I am every week, by my co-host, Dom Tiano. Dom, how are you on this big moment for the Bruins and for our channel?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great, as you mentioned. It's been a great day. 6-3 game just ended, and we have a new presenting sponsor. I don't know what's bigger news.
Um, I think the biggest news is I'm here.
Well, as I mentioned, we have a presenting sponsor for our shows now. It is Ice Shaker. I don't know how familiar folks out there are with them. They are a company that was founded by Rob Gronkowski's brother, Chris. They are a stainless steel shaker bottle. This one here in my hands I've had for about 5 years, and it works as flawlessly as the day that I got it. And it keeps ice cold for up to 30 hours. More on them as we continue to go, but very proud to be partnering with such a great company. And of course, on this day, as we celebrate a 6-3 win on the Bruins' 100th season anniversary.
Yeah. Welcome to them as our new sponsor. I got to say, heck of a job by the Boston Bruins on that presentation, that ceremony, um, pregame. Uh, as much as I hate to say it, the Montreal Canadiens set the bar when it comes to ceremonies like that. Nobody does it as well as they do. Uh, but the Bruins were right up there with the best of the best on this night. So kudos to all the people behind the scenes that put that together.
Absolutely. It's been one of those things that's been in the works for so long, and to finally see how it came to fruition. I'm curious who had the idea of them literally passing the puck to the next generation, but that's a great idea. Um, and it was well done. I know some folks were upset about who wasn't there, but I mean, if we brought every fan favorite Bruins legend, over the past 100 years, there'd be no room for fans in the building.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you figure most of them probably brought family members. So
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's complaining about the job they did are just looking for things to complain about.
oh, absolutely. What were your thoughts on the game? Charlie McAvoy starts the scoring off. You get 3 goals in 70 seconds between him, Pasternak, and Coyle. 3 guys that we've been talking about for weeks that need to get going. Then you end up with an additional goal for McAvoy on that shorthanded breakaway. Coyle, Kepke chips in with the empty netter. I mean, I don't want to say the
Well,
offense is back, but
no,
very
you're
good
not.
sign.
No, no, no. Where was it the previous game?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Oh,
it's Montreal, it's Montreal, and it's against their backup goaltender. Let's be realistic. W- There were a lot of good signs tonight. Obviously, probably their best game yet under Joe Sacco, but there is still room to improve. The power play, uh, needs some work. They still have to find consistent secondary scoring. Charlie McAvoy, best game of the season. If you go back to our pre-game show, when you asked me potential 20 goal scorers on this team, I mentioned Charlie McAvoy as being very close to it. If he had not sucked for the majority of the season so far, he would have made it. It's his fifth goal of the season. He's on pace for what, 17 now? Doesn't mean
yeah,
he'll get there. Um, I thought Frederick had a good game, but was this Trent Frederick having his one good game, three bad games? or was this because Mark Kastelik was on the line and he figured he better raise his game, or um, Kastelik is basically going to outshine him. So we'll see what happens then. I thought McLaughlin played well, taking over for Kastelik on the fourth line. Obviously, that whole third line with Coyle, Kastelik, and Frederick were very, very good. I thought Zaka had a great game. Pasternak scored, but he's still not David Pasternak. Geeky missed a couple of opportunities, but he was getting opportunities. So there's a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot to take away from it. I mean, like you said, it probably their best performance so far this season, especially under Sacco, at least. It's nice to see that there are a couple games where they've been able to produce this type of goal scoring. So you know that it's there. It's just a matter of finding it consistently. My question to you is, like you said, was Trent Frederick, was he I don't want to say comfortable, but was he upping his game because of Kostelik being on the line, because he was a little extra amped up for the game, which then makes me ask the question of how much does Frederick still want to actually be a Boston Bruin? Because he still has the ability to play to this level, but he's not consistently doing, and why would that be?
Only Trent Frederick knows the answer to that question. Don Sweeney doesn't know. Cam Neely doesn't know. His teammates probably don't know whether he wants to be there long term or not. That's a question for Trent Frederick to answer, and I'm not going to speculate on it. All I know is having Mark Kostelik there and Kostelik playing with the energy that he does every day. Trent Frederick better bring it, or he's going to lose his spot to Mark Kastelik.
Yeah, and when we had Craig Eagles on last week, he was talking about bumping Kostelik up. Kevin asks if we can put you in the Bruins time capsule.
Why is Kevin trying to get rid of me?
I don't know, but I wish they would have done a little more for us to know everything that was going in there, and maybe it's some stuff that I missed. But they talked about it, they made this big deal about it, but then didn't really say, like, remind or do a summary of what they ended up putting inside of it. So, Matrix points out Freddie Coyle, Kastelik is a wicked force. That line needs to stay together. How many lines have we said need to stay together that ultimately don't?
Well, not many for me, because my feelings on line combinations.
It's about pairings.
Yep.
And yet we keep coming back, especially with these types of lines. Coyle and Frederick playing together is still a common theme. The ups and the downs, they happen with each other together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Bear Force mentioning that Charlie's lead the way today for the Bees. Kastelik carried that third line. I mean, Coyle played pretty well there too. So
yeah,
I like Coyle in the third line center role. I think that's where he should slot in. That's where he ideally slots in on any Stanley Cup winning or contending team. Kevin says no, because you're a great piece to the Bruins with your knowledge. So he's not trying to get rid of you.
Okay. Well, I love you too, Kevin.
Bear Force mentions that the trade with Ottawa so far has been a win for the Bruins, and if Letourneau becomes an NHL regular, it could be a complete steal.
Way too early. Way too early.
Yeah, I mean, early returns are good considering the fact that Korpisalo has been solid and Kastelik has played better than anyone probably had on their bingo card. But it's still too early because, I mean, Linus Ullmark's got, 4 more years now in Ottawa? So
if Linus Ullmark goes on to win a Stanley Cup in Ottawa while he's under this next contract, and he leads them to that, do they not win the trade?
does Boston have one in the same time frame? I guess my
Chris,
question to you, what?
my question is making a point. It's a rhetorical question.
I know, but I'm still going to answer.
No, the answer is you don't know. It's too early to tell. Castella could walk at the end of the year. It's a free agent.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's why I'm glad they were able to get Korpisalo as part of it. I told you when they made the deal, I liked the fact that they got Korpisalo in that deal. So I'm not making it up when
but that's not the question that was asked. The question that was asked is, or the comment that was made is, the deal would be a steal. Doesn't matter what either one of us said preseason about the return on the trade. You can't call it a steal. It's too early.
Yeah,
When
I'll
the
agree
Bruins,
with you on that.
when the Bruins acquired Cam Neely from the Vancouver Canucks, how long did it take for that trade to become a steal? It didn't happen in the first year or the second year.
Right. And in that first or second year, I mean, you're looking at Dean Letourneau still playing in the NCAA. So
Right.
The returns long term could definitely be a good thing for Boston, but like you said, it could work out for both teams to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
There's still plenty, because if the Bruins end up winning it in 6 years with Letourneau as a top 6 center, that's a win for them too. So, it's also a deal that, kind of had to happen. One team needed a goaltender, and Boston needed to get rid of a goaltender. It was essentially a match made to occur. We got Court jumping in the comments as well.
Hi, Court.
Bear Force says, at first, I hate that Peterson trade.
Well, yeah, that's why you should never judge a trade the minute it's made. Sometimes it takes time to play out.
Yeah, and if some other moves also don't occur unless a major trade occurs. So, for instance, the Joe Thornton trade, that was anniversary yesterday. If Joe Thornton doesn't get dealt, they don't build this team around Patrice Bergeron. They don't win the cup in 2011.
Anyway, back to the game.
Yes. Back to the game. I'll let you decide the direction.
I thought Swayman was okay. The second Coldfield goal, he probably should have had. Other than that, he made the stops he needed to make. I think he's close to being the Jeremy Swayman that we expected. Very surprised, pleasantly surprised by Jordan Osterley's game. I thought, why are they taking Wotherspoon out? If you go back to a couple of games, the goal Charlie Coyle scored, walking down the middle, it was actually Parker Wotherspoon who didn't get a point on it, who came in behind Coyle and set up a pick without an actual pick that allowed Coyle to walk in basically alone and scored that goal. Wotherspoon doesn't get a lot of credit for little things like that. He does. So I was surprised to see him out and Osterley in. But Osterley, like I said, pleasantly surprised, played a fairly decent game as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I thought he filled in quite well. Same thing with McLaughlin. I know we talked a little bit about him earlier. Kind of what you're looking for in your 13th forward and your 7th defenseman, someone who could come in and not cost you a game, give you a chance to rest a guy, whether they're, banged up or whatever it is. And I mean, you should be able to play an Osterley and a McLaughlin against the Montreal Canadiens this year and give some guys a rest. You should be able to. The fact that you were still able to get 6 goals in that game and they weren't a reason for the 3 that you gave up, I'll take that.
Yeah. Again, caution to the wind here. It's Montreal. They're coming off back-to-back games. They're playing their number 2 goalie. It's about building the process and getting the team to where they need to be. Baby steps. I'll take the win, but I look at it for what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Comment from Court. Court, let me know if my mic is sounding a little bit better. And then he also mentions that the PK in the end, he was very good. Thinking he's talking about
Swayman.
Swayman, yeah. And then BG411 says McAvoy had his best game of the season. We need to see more of that from him. I would definitely say that this is probably his best game of the year so far. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I said it earlier. Easily his best game of the year.
And the goal on the breakaway, whew, the shorthanded one, that was nice to see him get that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt he was capable of scoring 20 goals this season.
Yeah. GVK Media says Swayman seems to be edging closer to the players he has been and needs to be moving forward. And good evening to you as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. Like I said earlier, Swayman is getting closer and closer to the goalie we expected him to be. Some of these losses that they've had, Corpy's been as good as he can be. Swayman hasn't. Was there an extra win or two in there if Swayman had not missed camp and was the goalie he was last year? Probably.
Yeah, but I mean, let's face it. Jeremy Swayman is not the reason that this team has won game over 500. He's not the only reason.
No, he's a big reason why. He's a big reason why they're only one game over 500.
Yeah, I put a lot on the lack of structure that they had to kick off the year. Like there's just a lot of crap that was going on in front of them. And if you really, at least in my opinion, break down the numbers, it was a lot of the penalty kill. The penalty kill was terrible, and so his numbers got skewed because of it.
No, I don't care what the numbers say. The eye test alone, to me, says Jeremy Swayman gave up goals he should not have given up. And would that have made a difference in the win-loss record to this point? Absolutely.
Yeah, but you can say that about any goaltender. That's the nature of the job. But the performance of the team in front of him certainly didn't help. And because there were additional breakdowns that were happening in front of him that don't normally happen for this Bruins team, he was left out to dry. He was giving up goals that he could have been stopping and which would also affect him in goals that he was, the goals expected.
But Chris, why was Korpisalo making the saves in the same situation? Forget the numbers. Forget what the numbers say. Just the eye test. Just the eye test. A year ago, Cofield never would have scored that second goal on Jeremy Swayman. Today, he did.
So Bear Force is saying that neither of those Caulfield goals should have gone in. That those are both on
No,
Swayman.
I think the first one, a lot of NHL goalies would have had a tough time making.
Let's see. Kevin says that it was also a distraction to the team, the Swayman negotiations. Yeah, Kevin, I think there was more distracting the team, though, than just the Swayman contract. That start to the season was a cluster in the entire locker room. It proceeded to get worse and worse and worse, compounded upon each other. And I don't think situation A helped situation B, so on and so forth. And then things ultimately became unattainable for all parties, hence the parting of ways with Jim Montgomery. Swayman had two very bad games back to back. The Dallas and Toronto games were both brutal, coming in from court. He also asked, how does Swayman stop a bounce off a player in front? Yeah.
He wasn't stopping that.
I get the idea of wanting him to stop it, but it's just one of those things where, like you said, most NHL goalies, that one's going to get by. KVG read your post on HF boards talking about how the Bruins could make a Kreider contract work by offloading just under $3 million. Any thoughts on a package that might give us a chance to acquire him? I know when we had Craig Eagles on the other day, people were asking about the potential of a Chris Kreider acquisition. We never really got back to it. Just real quick, so we can have our thoughts on the record. It is a little bit of a shorter show tonight. What are your thoughts on the Bruins going after a guy like Chris Kreider, specifically him, since his name is out there?
Okay, first of all, I have to clear up the cap situation because KPD wrote an article today saying that the Bruins would need to move out about $5 million in salary cap space to acquire Kreider. I can tell you 100% that is false. And I have the numbers for you as of 5 p.m. yesterday. I don't have them as of 5 p.m. today because there was a Bruins game on and the cap updates at 5 p.m. So I just hadn't gotten to it. So Kreider's cap hit is $6.5 million. That's his AAV. As of 5 p.m. yesterday, the Rangers had already paid $1,828,125 of Kreider's cap. That means the cap hit to the Bruins for the remainder of the season is $4,671,875. Bruins can add, as of 5 p.m. today, $763,580 in cap space, meaning they'd have to move out just over $3.9 million in cap. Here's how you go about that. McLaughlin and Osterley will go down to Providence. They each clear $557,031. That means the Bruins have to clear $2,793,833 in cap space to fit Kreider in. Half of what KPD reported in his article today. So those are the facts. That's what it is. The problem is, I don't think the Bruins have the assets to acquire Kreider.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, at a minimum, you're starting with probably two of the three, Poitras, Lori, 2025 first-round draft pick. At a minimum, you're starting with two of the three.
That's not helping the Rangers today. The Rangers want something that helps them today.
But that's what I'm saying is there you're going to get two of those plus a player off your roster that helps them today.
Okay, but who on the roster is going to help them more than Chris Kreider?
That's the question. Is I don't think you have someone who does.
No, you don't have the assets to acquire him.
I'm not sure. Like some people are going to say send him Charlie Coyle, but send him. Really, the only way that you could potentially offer them help would be on the blue line in a way where they're also, if they're making multiple transactions, including Trouba going out and, there's a lot of dominoes. That's an off-season roster restructure trade, a series of trades that has to occur. And honestly, do you really want to make the New York Rangers better? Do you want to help with that? Just makes your road to the cup harder.
If it makes your team better for the now and the future, yes, you make the trade. I don't care who the opposition is. It's just the unless Kreider can somehow force his way to Boston with his no trade list, I just don't see the Bruins having the assets.
It just doesn't make sense. Now, someone who did force their trade hand was obviously Taylor Hall. It'd be nice if he is moved by Chicago. Would you revisit bringing him back in, or do you think the team has moved on from him? I think they've moved on,
No,
and that door's closed.
Taylor Hall is a shell of his former self. His knee surgery did him no favors last year. He's just a shell of the player he was.
He just doesn't seem the same. So Matrix mentions there's got to be someone better than acquiring Kreider. I think someone would be a better fit. I don't know who specifically, but Kreider would be okay if you're able to get him on the cheap. Well, I mean, if you're able to get him on the cheap, though, something's wrong there. Kevin says, I wasn't saying it was the only thing going on, but when you're in camp to start a season and you don't know who your goaltender may be because of a contract negotiation, it's a major distraction. There were a lot of distractions going into camp, though. So we don't have a road to the cup this year, so it doesn't matter. But to Dom's point, Kevin, is it going to make your team better now and in the future? Would it make your team better next year? Sure, but it doesn't help you now. I just don't see it. So, Dom, we talked a little bit about the pregame ceremony. Some of the guests. Did you have the Nesson feed for this?
Nope.
What feed was it? A different Sportsnet feed, or what feed did you?
I watched. Okay. I had the Nesson feed, but I never watched the Bruins feed unless it's the only feed I can get.
Okay.
Because the reason why I'm asking, I'd rather listen to commentators who don't always praise the Bruins or are pro Bruins, because sometimes it's very unbiased.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And sometimes with national media, if anything, it seems like they're more hating on the Bruins than anything. There was a lot
of love for the Bruins and the job they did. They had what's his name? Coach the Bruins on the panel. Coach Winnipeg last year.
I don't know. I don't know who Sportsnet got on their panel.
He was just on for today. It'll come to me. Gary Galley was on there, talked about his time in Boston. They actually brought Dick Irvin in to do an interview, talked about his dad, and told some Eddie Shore stories. Kelly Rudy talked about how Jerry Cheevers went to him one day and said not to worry about your stats, just worry about the W's. That's the only thing that matters. Rick Bonus, that's it.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a lot of Bruins love today. A lot.
No, that's good. I know sometimes some national channels though tend to go the other way.
And
Let's
credit to
see.
Bruins fans for giving Ken Dryden a nice applause when he came out to drop the puck.
Yep,
When I
there were a
when
lot of
I saw
legends. So.
him, I thought, "Oh, here come the boos," but I was pleasantly surprised. So kudos to the fans.
Kevin says, I was really enjoying the game today until Brick decided to say that Brazeau went in unmolested. Please don't say that, Brick. And then Curious Browser wants to know, how about Cam Neely's message, quote unquote, about the Bruins today, about blue collar fans forgiving results if the efforts are there?
I could understand that with blue collar fans. Um, a lot of times, like especially this stretch, we've been talking about it for 2 weeks. I don't care about results. I'm caring about the effort and the Bruins becoming the team that they need to be. Uh, but that's a period of a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks. Yeah, so I can understand it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Um, is it what you really want to be hearing? No, but it's also not something that, as a president or of the organization, you want to be talking about either. Um, it's just this team isn't where they wanted to be, where they thought they would be, and everybody needs to accept that because that is the fact. Period. Uh, Ken Dryden was the best for a while. I would agree with that.
Oh, I
He's
don't
up there
know
for
because
sure.
um, I think Tony Esposito would have something to say about it. I'll tell you, in the 72 Summit Series, I would have taken Tony Esposito over Ken Dryden in any of those games.
Yeah, I mean, again, he certainly was up there. So, um, if you lose a game, but the effort was there and a big difference than just mailing it, and absolutely, and I think that's something that we saw earlier in the season. Was there were times where the team would just fall behind, give up a bad play, they would do something, and overall, you could see their body language just kind of, okay, well, that's it for tonight. Let's just try to move on to the next one, and it would cost them points.
Well, Court mentioned it earlier. Think about the Dallas game.
Hmm.
Think
Absolutely.
about the Columbus game, where absolutely no effort.
Yeah, and I think that's why everybody was looking at that St. Louis game, the comeback game, as what they wanted to be a turning point because that they showed that they can fight from a deficit. It's the ability is there, the talent level for at least some of these wins is there. It was just not that the effort wasn't there. It was all effort based. Dryden was great with that Habs team in front of
Yeah, I mean, I could have won Stanley Cups with that team in front of me.
him. So overall, though, good game for the team. Good win for the team tonight. We got back to backs coming up again the rest of this week on what is it, Tuesday and Wednesday again, if I remember correctly. I'm just trying to pull up the schedule now.
I don't know. Haven't looked at the schedule.
because I know they got two Tuesday, Wednesday. They are at home against the Red Wings on Tuesday, and then in Chicago for Wednesday, and then they play at home again on Saturday against the Flyers. Now, hopefully, they're able to pick up 5 or 6 points along the way. It's great that they got the 2 today, but they really need to start continuing to build on their points. I mean, the good thing is they are in a playoff spot, but if they're not careful, they could fall out of it real quick.
They need to go on a run here. That loss to Pittsburgh, totally unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I
would agree.
Should have been a win. Today should have been a win. The next 3 should be wins. They needed a run of 5 games or so, 5 or 6 games. That Pittsburgh game put a dagger in that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and they have the Lightning nipping right at their heels for the 3rd spot in the division. And right now, 5 teams are coming out of the Metro. Philly and New York are tied in the first 2 wild card spots. So, and you're right on par with them. So if you lose one game and Tampa gets the W, they're right ahead of you, and you're probably out of a playoff position. So let's see. Court says, I looked something up. Swayman in his last 3 games, not including today, has a 1.36 goals against average and a 943 save percentage. Yet he only won one of those games because the Bruins couldn't score.
Yep. Like I said, he's almost back to where he should be.
Yeah, and that's a very promising sign. Between him and Korpisalo, you're starting to get, I would say you're getting now a chance to win every night. You've just got to have that offense start to come through again.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And
how
you
about
need to get the power play going.
Yes. That will have a huge impact on this team's offense. How about that atrocious 3rd period goal at home account by the Bruins this year, even though they finally got one today? Oh, I got you. The fact that they haven't been scoring 3rd period goals at home.
They got 2 today.
Yeah. But, I mean, still, you've gone, almost 11 games without one? Like, that's still very bad. Should have beaten the Canucks and the Penguins.
And they both came against Montreal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's still... And one of them was an empty netter. So, should have beaten the Canucks and Penguins, but as Court said, scoring is a major problem. If you can fix all the other details in your game and scoring remains to be the only problem, you've at least narrowed down the problems. If the problem is earlier in the year, you had so many issues. You were playing whack-a-mole trying to figure out what this team actually was. You had the power play that was terrible. The penalty kill was terrible. Your goaltending was off. Your defensive structure was horrible. You're giving up, so many high-end scoring chances. You couldn't find the back of the net. So many problems. You make the coaching change, and you're starting to see some of those whittle down. Like you said, you got to get that power play going. That power play is atrocious. It looks like they're starting to try some new stuff with it, but they've got to find something to get it going.
I 100% agree with Joe Sacco. Fix all the other issues in your game, and the offense should come. They are fixing all the other things in their game. They're getting the chances offensively. They're just not bearing it. Again, it's Montreal. It was the Islanders. 2 games in which they scored 6 goals. I'm not saying problem solved because, again, it was the Islanders and it was Montreal.
Yeah, and the Islanders are a weak team right now. But to your point, if you're playing better and all you need to do is go get scoring, yes, scoring can be tough to get, but when it's the only thing that you need, it makes your life a lot easier to fix the problem. Because certain guys can put the puck in the net, other guys aren't built that way, and you can target something. You're not chasing down a penalty killer. You're not chasing down a power play quarterback. You're not also chasing down a scoring winger. You just say, this is what we need. Let's go get it. And even Don Sweeney said coming into the year, they were one top 6 forward away from potentially a deep playoff run. Well, we're getting back to that. So apparently, if we were doing that show around the horn, I'd be getting a lot of points right now. Thanks. The effort level is much better, and Swayman seems to be getting back on track. But we need a couple more guys with scoring touch, and yes, the power play is putrid. Anything to add to that to Bear Force's comment?
No, I want to see what they do to fix the power play. The talent is there, the players are there. It's just not happening for them.
Yeah,
I don't know what the answer is.
And the last thing you want to do is take David Pastrnak off the power play or put him on a second unit because he's one of the best goal scorers in the league. He has that ability. That's his ceiling. You don't take him off the power play. I've heard it suggested. That's why I'm putting it out there. GVK Media also saying, I agree, since Sacco goaltending and defense are nearly back. We're getting there. The structure's a lot better. I would feel much better about this defense if we had Hampus Lindholm back. I haven't heard anything about his return other than the end of December is possible.
No, Sacco said today, still week to week.
Yeah, that doesn't. I don't like that. I want him back in this lineup, but that dude's got to get healthy. I mean, he took that puck right off the knee. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Huge loss. Curious Browser also says overall they've been good with Joe Sacco coaching, but that Pittsburgh game, a massive shift, saying that they came out slow and took the loss is still a lack of effort, which they can no longer afford. I mean, yeah, that Pittsburgh game was bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been listening to this show, I've been saying it for 2 weeks now. We're in a mini camp. That's what this is for Joe Sacco. Don't say because you disagreed with me when I said it the first
time.
No,
I didn't. I did not disagree with you on that. I said I agree with you.
No, I will go back and find it. You totally disagreed. You made it very clear that you disagreed.
No, I said they needed to bank points.
This is a mini camp. This is a tryout. This is learning a new system. This is all that. So you're going to have letdowns and you're going to have steps back. It's how you recover from that.
Absolutely. And what I wanted to point out about that Pittsburgh game, though, was we are starting to get some of that secondary scoring because who scored the goal in that game? Who scored 2 more goals tonight? Charlie Coyle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3 goals in his last 2. He was on a very cold streak before that. He had no goals in at least his last 4 before that. So hopefully he's starting to turn that corner a little bit. If you can get some scoring from him, then that starts to turn things around. Maybe that helps get Trent Frederick next to him going a little bit. So Curious browses adding on from Nesson today when asked if Boston expected to have Lindholm back sometime this month. Sacco said he wasn't too optimistic by saying no, he's still out weeks. So,
oh well.
And then GVK Media saying Bruins in a mini camp. Good thing they're playing all the bottom feeders in a row. Problem is
And
you've been a bottom feeder too.
That's why I said this 9-game stretch, they were all bottom feeders with the exception of Vancouver.
Let's see. That coaching change happened right after the Columbus game, right?
Don't think that Don Sweeney say, hey, if we're going to make the change now when they're playing the bottom feeders.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got the W today against Montreal, and then you got Detroit. Detroit could give you a hard time. They gave you a bit of a hassle last season. I would still fully expect you should win that game. But to your point, how do they play? That's more important. And then you get the Blackhawks and the Flyers. And then the Jets is going to be another tough one. They're playing really well. Then the Kraken and Vancouver again. So you've got a bit of a stretch where you really only play a couple playoff teams. And like when we play Vancouver again on December 14th, how does that game compare to the game from November 26th? Same opponent, two different teams basically for Boston, even though it's the same players.
Well, it should be different because the Bruins should be where Sacco wants them to be playing at by that point.
Exactly. Let's see. JD says 12-10. That is the Winnipeg Jets game in Winnipeg. Should be a real test. But also mentioned Kaslik brings energy to the Coil line. Kaslik is bringing energy to any line he's been on, not just the Coil line. Certainly helps, though. Which Curious Browser just adds in. Karen's jumping in. Welcome. Let's see. GVK Media mentions that you beat the bottom feeder, so you don't join them. And Cam says that the Panthers are our daddy. I mean, okay, we're not playing the Panthers anytime soon, so we'll see what happens the next time we play them. That's really all I can say about the Panthers. They're irrelevant to us until we play them again, and I'm trying to see. That is January 11th.
February?
I will worry about them. January 11th. It's a 1:00 game in Florida. So I'll worry about them on January 10th. But I mean, they're playing well. They're a solid team. They're well built. Their roster is well constructed, and they're going to be a tough test for anybody who plays them. So they're the defending Cup champions. What do you want me to say? Credit where it's due. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Karen says that she loves the newest tradition outside the TD Garden. Did they start a new tradition?
I'm assuming that's the bear. Yeah, watching the Bears.
Edition. Okay. The bear. Okay. What'd you think of the statue?
Loved it. But you can't walk by without touching the paw.
Kevin says he'll never worry about the Panthers because he's not playing the games.
True. But knowing Kevin, he'd eat a burrito before going out on the ice, and he would take care of a Panther or two.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Make that stop at Taco Bell on his way in. Curious Browser says, oddly, sometimes middle teams beat top teams and vice versa. Me thinks it's more about matchups and players' lines getting hot. Absolutely. As GVK Media points out, we are only 4 points behind the Panthers. They've gone on a little bit of a slide, which is nice. The Maple Leafs are slowing down a little bit. It's certainly made the division a lot closer and has kept Boston in it, which is good for the Bruins. But I mean, right now you're looking at 31 points for the Panthers and 21 for the Senators, who are 2 above dead last. It's a 5-game swing. Like, it is what it is.
Austin Matthews is back, so the Leafs should be good for a loss or two.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Austin Matthews is clearly the problem.
Their record without him is unbelievable.
Real quick, Kevin says that he put up a hattie.
Just imagine the Bruins record without Pasternak. The Leafs without Matthews. The Leafs without Matthews. Superb record.
They're better without him than they are with him.
Yep.
which again comes down to the roster building question. You got 4 forwards making up that much of your cap dollars. Everybody's talked about trading Marner, trading Nylander, getting rid of Tavares, doing this, doing that. I mean, the team has proven they can play without Matthews. At what point do you sit there and go, let's actually consider this? How can we better our team?
I'm not trading a 70-goal scorer. Okay, 69.
I know what you're. I'm not holding you to that. I was going to round it.
I'm not trading him. Absolutely no way. Imagine what he could do with a better roster around him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also sit here, though, and go, what could you get for him? Could legitimately ask for a Cale Makar type player.
And more.
And absolutely.
Austin Matthews will, if he remains healthy enough, Austin Matthews will break Alex Ovechkin's career goal scoring record. I know Ovechkin doesn't have it yet, but he will.
Yes, I agree with that statement. 100%. 100%. All I'm saying though is if I'm the Leafs, I at least have to look at the idea of going, what if we could add a player like a Quinn Hughes and then some to our lineup from Vancouver? Obviously, certain players would have to want to waive clauses and all that stuff, but woof.
Just think about this today. Quinn Hughes became the Vancouver Canucks leading assist getter by a defenseman. Career. How long has Quinn Hughes been in the NHL?
Woof. Yeah, that's saying something right there. Kevin says, if I'm trading anyone, it's Mitch Marner, and I'm trading him for a goaltender. Kevin, I get where you're coming from, but Mitch Marner is the reason why they're playing so well without Austin Matthews. Like, it is what it is. They both get a haul. Mitch Marner would absolutely want a huge contract, but I mean, if you're the Leafs and you're trying to win a cup, you can't have 4 players with that kind of contract. Absolutely need help in goal, but right now, Stolarz, Hildeby, and Joseph Wall are playing really well in net, Kevin. So I would hold off on getting a goaltender. I would focus on getting a defenseman and then really building your scoring depth with that type of move. Obviously, pipe dream as a Bruins fan, I'd love to see them give away a 70-goal scorer in any deal, but they're not going to do it. I am with you, Dom. Fun to think about, but it's not something that would ever go down. If you want to see a trade like that happen, go buy NHL 25.
Mm-hmm. Or 26.
Or 26, yeah. I don't know which one they're on right now.
They're on 25. But it might be It's not going to happen now, so you might have to wait for NHL 26.
Right. I just all I'm saying is you've been able, like, the Panthers traded away a 100 plus point scorer in Jonathan Huberdeau and a top pairing defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar, and they brought in Matt Tkachuk, and within a couple of years they win a cup. It wouldn't be unheard of to trade away a point machine like that. Yes, he's a goal scorer, but it doesn't matter how many goals you score if you're not winning playoff rounds. If you can't do it in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we can talk more about the Leafs anytime we want. Bruin Centennial, we've got about 10 minutes or so left in the show. Dom, I'm kind of hitting you with a little bit of a blind question here. Is that okay?
Oh, I love blind questions.
Perfect. Over the course of your time covering and watching this team, you've seen a lot. You've been a part of a lot. What are some of your favorite moments that you've been a part of with this organization?
Obviously, the 70 and 72 Stanley Cup championships are my two most memorable moments. And despite losing in 74 to the Philadelphia Flyers, 1-0 in Game 6 in Philly. Philly did not want to lose that game because they knew if they went to Boston for Game 7, they weren't winning the cup. But even though they lost, I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing during that game and what I did immediately after. It stood out to me. Then the big trade between the Bruins and the Rangers that saw Brad Park, Jean Rattel, and Joe Zanussi come to Boston for Phil Esposito and Carol Vadnais. That was a huge moment because I remember I had three brothers and they were all Leafs fans. My father had just become a Sabres fan when they joined the league. I was the Bruins fan. And all summer, all we heard about was, could Bobby Orr ever play again? Could Bobby Orr ever play again? And I remember, I think I've told this story on this show. I said to my brothers, I said, you watch, Brad Park will be a Boston Bruin within 2 weeks. At that time, there was no social media. You had to wait for the 6 o'clock news for your sports stories or wait for the newspaper to come in. And there it was on the 6 o'clock news. Brad Park was on his way to Boston. Then there was the Ray Bork draft in 79. It was a moment I will never forget. Norman Levier, when he collapsed in Jean Rattel's arms. I was not watching that game. I was listening to it on WBZ with, I believe Bob Wilson was still doing the call at that time. Was a very, very sad moment for me. But the biggest moment was when the Bruins finally beat the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs. My wife was a Montreal Canadiens fan. I was a Boston Bruins fan. Yes, we survived. When just before the final game, I went out and I bought a big screen television. People don't remember there was no such thing as flat screens. So big screens were big, huge boxes that weighed like 400 pounds. And I had it delivered, and my wife flipping out because I had a bunch of people coming over to watch the game that night. And she's like, "How much did you pay for that?" Blah, 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 blah. And she was mad. She was really mad. She said, "Well, I want you to go out and get me that wicker set I wanted." She pissed me off because that wicker set cost about as much as the television. So I had to go out and buy her this wicker set. It's a big thing back then, guys, for those of you that don't know what wicker is. I will never, ever, ever forget that. And of course, 2011 Stanley Cup. Those were the moments I remember the most.
Yeah, we got JD mentioning you're taking them down memory lane for the Bruins. Matrix taking off. Have a good night. And Bear Force saying, I remember that in '88. His ex and her family were all Habs fans, and when they finally beat them, it was like winning the cup.
Yep.
Let's see. Court says for him, the '79 Bruins going into the stands at MSG. Bear Force has a good question about today's game. What did you think of the uniforms that they were wearing today? Are you a big uniform guy, Dom?
No. There's a couple times I had to look twice because I thought I was watching the Penguins, but I loved the uniforms. Absolutely loved them. I loved the gold socks.
Fantastic.
Yeah, loved the gold socks. I don't know. I'm still not sold on the gold B, but they were easy on the eyes watching it on television.
Yeah. I thought they were solid, well put together, well thought out, just simple. You know, that's the best part is it was simple. The design was fine. You know, to sit there and say like a jersey for me really, really has to be bad for me not to like it, or the logo just has to be terrible. Overall, it's just it's a jersey. You know what I mean? Like it's not. You know, Court says they will have a new jersey next year. Probably, yeah. That's jerseys are such a money cash cow these days. They're not appreciated the way they used to be by the organization. They put a new one out every year or two new ones out every year so they can make some extra money. Like by the time you can grow to appreciate the jersey and the uniform, it's been changed 5 times. You know, and of course, because of contracts, like we're never going to see that reverse retro ever again. I love that reverse retro. I thought that was a great uniform, but we're never going to see it again. You know, it'd be nice for them to break it out, but it's never going to happen.
If people keep forking out the money they're forking out for jerseys, they'll change them every year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't mind the 80s. I don't mind the 80s jerseys.
No, I don't hate any of the jerseys. It's just like you said, if as long as people are shelling out the money, I don't want to keep shelling out the money. I want to get one every now and then. That's fine. I used to have a Brad Marchand jersey. It got stolen. That is a story in of itself. I got a customized one because no one's going to be stealing that one. And then when Thomas Nosek joined the team, I got one for him. That fit.
If anybody caught our last show, we had Craig Eagles on, and after the show, he gave us a tour of his basement with 4 walls full of photos, signed photos, the closet full of signed jerseys. Man, I would give anything to have the collection that he has. You know, But if I had to pick a jersey I'd like to see, I would say it's the Joe Thornton jersey with the gold all the way down the sleeve.
Yeah. Yep. Um, and it's funny too because I look back obviously with the 100-year celebration, and for me, it was tough to become a hockey fan because back when I started watching, it was the late Ray Bork years. You had Bork, Defoe, Samsonov, Thornton. That was kind of the crew at that point. But the games were so hard to find. Like, this was before they were on Versus, and then they went to Versus, and no one had that in the cable package unless you paid for so much extra. And it became a hassle to find the games. So it was much easier to watch other sports. But it was still fun when I could find them. But over the years, then they finally switched over to Nesson, and it was nice to be able to follow them and get back into it. So I'm looking forward to going forward, though. I really like what they're doing now as far as trying to actually grow the game and look forward. So Bear Force says I like the current white jerseys. I couldn't wear a white jersey just because it won't remain white.
Yeah, like Kevin would probably spill food down his all the time, eh?
Oh yeah, no, he'd have mustard, ketchup, he'd have, yesterday's lunch, all that stuff all over it. So anyway, Dom,
Pizza sauce.
Oh yeah, pizza, pasta, everything. You name it, it wouldn't be white. It'd be a rainbow shirt. So, Kevin, we love you. You got to come on the show again at some point. We're not going to stop hassling you about that either because we want you on the show. So, at some point, just cave and come on. Dom, any final thoughts? We're hitting the 8:00 hour. This was going to be a short one. Game ran a little bit long on us, but we're still passing the hour mark, which is nice.
No, just good win. Good to see some improvement. Let's carry it forward. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6:30 with the Prospect Show, live on YouTube and on X again. So please join us for that. And in the meantime, go Bees.
Yeah, I want to thank Ice Shaker for the partnership as we've officially launched that. They'll be presenting the show for us again tomorrow and going forward for now. So definitely, if you get some time, go check out iceshaker.com. Get yourself one of these. Dom, we actually have some coming our way, some Bruins ones for this show. So looking forward to getting those up, getting those out our way. And we'll show those off when they come in as well. But definitely worth checking them out. And